Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Halloween edition of the Jim Cornette Experience. Well, actually, by the time you hear this, it's November, but fuck it, we're going to scare the shit out of you anyway. Because we're going to talk about modern wrestling fans as well as modern wrestling. We're going to talk about the final Wednesday of October in the Wednesday Night War. I can tell you one casualty, my fucking brain cells. And we're going to talk about, explore, discuss, pontificate on whether Dave Meltzer really likes this shit or not. To join me on this special edition that I'm sure is going to piss off a lot of people, your friend and mine, he's Hawaiian Brian, the podcasting lion, the king of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network, Mr. Co-host to you. He is the proprietor of the French Toast Chateau. He will drive a stake through the heart of bad podcasters, and he's Phoebe Figalili's favorite guy. Your friend and mine, the great Brian Last, everybody.
Aloha, Jim. A nice couple of additions there to my introduction. Pleasure to be here, and happy anniversary to you and the queen of Castle Cornette, Stacy.
Thank you very much. That's why after we get finished doing this program, I'm going to do fuck all or nothing for the rest of the day except watch Halloween movies and eat Grubhub. You ought to get Phoebe Figalili to deliver you some Grubhub up there where you live, out in the rich suburbs.
I will look into that. You know, it's funny. I was just thinking the other day about, I remember must have been like September 2006, because I was still at Sony. You and Stacy came up to New York, and me and my then girlfriend went out. We had a great time, and you guys were getting ready to get married. I remember thinking, this won't last. And it's amazing. No, I kid. You guys were clearly in love, and it's beautiful to see all these years later, you guys are still together.
It's a beautiful thing. Yeah. Boy, you're already getting sideways with me. Hey, speaking of today, did you hear I was mentioned on the Today Show this week?
No.
I'm serious as a heart attack, which hopefully I won't have for another few weeks yet. Apparently 3 or 4 people tweeted me that Craig Melvin on the Today Show was talking about the first wrestling match that he ever saw in some context, and I've not found anybody that could provide me with the clip of this. That's why I'm announcing it on the program, because I didn't see it. But mentioned that the people at the first wrestling match he saw were Nature Boy Ric Flair, the Rock and Roll Express, and the Midnight Express, and Jim Cornette. Now, 3 or 4 different people have tweeted me this. If it did not happen, they are part of a vast right-wing conspiracy. But if it did, somebody send me a clip or something.
Yeah, and I'm going to send Craig a note right now and ask if he wants to come on the show and talk about it.
Well, do you know Craig?
I know people that know him, but I could also just send him a tweet. Make it easy.
You know people that know Craig. Well, I don't know.
I got friends at NBC, so.
You got people connected all over the Northeast up there. Anyway, we're going to talk about stupid people today. But before we do, we're going to talk about smart people. Because, ladies and gentlemen, after I announced this last week on the program, a bunch of you have taken advantage of this. The Cornette's Collectibles holiday sale is in full swing. And I said, just like Nick Goulas used to say, get your tickets early. It's already been a record-breaking season, and you're getting your orders in early, and I appreciate that. And we're handling all the load. We're handling every single one of the loads that comes in from you people. And we are as a matter of fact, if you've ordered by Tuesday of this week, your stuff is either already in the mail or it's going out this weekend. Regardless, we're keeping up a 2 or 3 4-day turnaround tops. We're really cranking this stuff out. So the loads will be delivered down the chimneys well before Christmas, and we encourage you to keep this up at jimcornette.com, where we revealed, Brian, last week, we revealed this. Even to go out and get a greeting card these days, $5, $6, $7, right? Just to send somebody something to say you're still thinking of them, right? So why not for between $9 and $15 for the wrestling fan in the family or in your social circle or someone you know in the neighborhood, just to get them off your back? Stocking stuffers. The Houston Wrestling Spectacular with the Wild Bull Curry and Johnny Valentine match, along with Dusty Rhodes and Bruiser Brody and all the top stars of Houston wrestling from the late 70s and early 80s. Only $15. Wrestling Gold, 10 hours of classic 70s and 80s wrestling, $9. other classic DVDs, $10 pictures, $10 Cult of Cornette membership certificates, $10 burger towels, 15 for 2 or 2 for 15, whichever way you want to play it. Even if you hate somebody, get multiple items of these things so that you can get them off your back cheap and just shove them at them and let them go on their merry way, and everything's autographed. I'm helping people out. Again, you know, it's the holiday season, Brian, and I do like to think of others. So I'm helping people out, not only do their shopping without leaving the house, not only get the people off their backs that are wrestling fans that they might want to give some token to but don't want to spend a lot of money. And right there, boom, in one-stop shop.
One-stop shop.
Why do people think I'm so hard-hearted and cold when I do things like this for people? Plus, the T-shirts. If you want to take a step up and you really like somebody and you want to spend $20, T-shirts, thank you, fuck you, bye, the Cornette face, the I'm a Jim Cornette guy, the Outlaw Mud Show. We mentioned hate is a hell of a motivator. When these are sold, they're going out of stock. We're rotating the stock. And, of course, the hottest shirt on the internet, fuck Jim Cornette, for the children. $5 from every shirt goes to the Crusade for Children. What more can you expect? And the books and more. There's always more. Restraining orders. I may get a few new ones of those to stock on the site. Anyway, JimCornette.com. Holiday shopping season.
From who?
Probably from 3 or 4 of the people I'm going to talk about later on today. I'd like to make mention also of the only time that I will be appearing in public for the next 6 months will be for the NWA, the television tapings at the GPB studios in Atlanta, Georgia on actually the pay-per-view, first of all on December 14th, which is sold out. The television tapings on December 15th and 16th, first night sold out, second night maybe by now, but you can check if you follow the NWA at NWA on Twitter or NationalWrestlingAlliance.com or all those on YouTube. You're obviously everybody that listens to this program is watching NWA Power because I'm all over the thing. And if you listen to this show, for fuck's sake, watch a show where people actually put some effort into it and some time and energy instead of this random nattering that we do. Anyway, well, you never natter.
Well, thank you.
You don't natter. You gibber. You jibber jabber.
I could natter.
Do you want to natter for a while and let me jibber jabber?
I don't know. I like jibber jabber.
Anyway, so the NWA pay-per-view and television tapings December 14th through 16th, and check out NWA Power on YouTube, as so many people have. And, you know, once again, I don't want to jump the gun on a topic, but this just comes to my mind. On Twitter, some of the all petite wrestling fans. Is that what Rob Van Dam said? All petite wrestling?
That is what he said. Because someone sent it to me and then I put, hey, that's really funny. They go, well, that was actually Rob Van Dam. And I said, well, all credit goes to Rob Van Dam because that really is funny.
That's very, I wish I'd have thought of that. Thank you, Rob. But anyway, the all petite wrestling fans, some of them were like, more people watched All Elite Dark on YouTube than watched the NWA. Okay, that's fine. That's their choice. You know, a lot of people like to have their balls nailed to a step stool, and McDonald's sells a lot of hamburgers. But if they knew anything about the wrestling business, for one thing, besides the fact that it's a program that's starting from scratch with a goal in mind down the road and not something that's hot-shotting itself into obscurity in the first 3 months, what do you think that they spent on taping those matches and taping that television program? Versus for the amount of people that watch it, versus apparently these people don't understand that there is a reason why studio wrestling was done in a television studio. Brian, would you like me to tell them this reason?
Yeah.
Because that's where the fucking TV equipment is. This is not a remote broadcast and a NBA arena being rented. And fucking goddamn 6-figure contracts being given out to guys still living in their parents' basement so they can work 1 day a week on the fucking Cirque du Soleil taping. So they better have more people watching the thing on YouTube for that amount of money that they're spending versus the NWA that has a plan of how to present a quality show in high def for a lot less expense. So they better hope they get a bunch of those YouTube views, too.
Well, some people don't care about throwing away money. Some people don't care about burning money. Some people just give their kids endless amounts of money, from what I've heard.
Well, you talking about the Carter family now?
Yes, Dixie Carter.
And what was Bob? And old Bob. Dad was Bob.
Was he around? I never asked you that. I mean, I know you've told all these Dixie stories. Was Bob Carter ever actually around?
I think he was there once. I was only there 3 years now, but I think that I shook hands with him once, as I recall. Red-faced gentleman. Very red-faced. Looked like he had a blood pressure issue. May have been because of his children. I don't know. But anyway, so go ahead. Before we start pissing people off on this special edition of the program, Brian, how's that 100th episode of You Know What working out for you?
Oh my God, what a week it's been. Let me quickly go through this because I'm as tired as you. AEW. Well, I'm not going to say anything until the review. I'm very tired today.
I'm very tired, please. Sam Mineker actually said that on television one time, doing the stand-up local promos for the Expo Center in Indianapolis the next Saturday night or whatever the fuck. Every time they had a show, and I don't mean to step on your plug, you can do it later. Every time they had a show with the Expo Center in Indianapolis, the TV that would air on Channel 4 at like 1 o'clock Saturday night, Sunday morning, they couldn't talk about the winners because they were pre-taping the stuff, and it was pretty obvious. The shit only happened 2 hours ago, but at the same time, they wanted to talk ahead to the next show. So they would just do a generic promo where, folks, it was a great night of action tonight, and general manager matchmaker Bob Luce is at the hotel right now. And he's already calling superstars on the phone for the next big event at the Expo Center here in Indy on such and such date, right? And then they just have the boys do generic interviews. And goddamn Sam Mineker one night is doing that. And instead of busting the take when he just flibber-jabbered a bunch of verbiage, he said, well, it's late. We had a long event tonight. I'm very tired. Please excuse me. And started over again.
It's early, but I'm very tired. Please excuse me. A couple of notes. Of course, you can get information about all Arcadian Vanguard shows on Twitter at Superpodcast or on Facebook, facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard. We mentioned it a few weeks ago. The Mid-Atlantic Championship podcast coming at you very soon. You can subscribe now, wherever it is that you find your favorite podcast. It'll be coming at you in November. I think everyone will really dig it. Subscribe now, the Mid-Atlantic Championship podcast. Also,
dig it.
Well, that has nothing to do with Mid-Atlantic Wrestling.
Guaranteed personified, but that's the last person I heard use the word dig it. Wavy Gravy's dead, man.
No, he's not. Is he?
It's not?
Hugh Romney?
No, Wavy Gravy.
Yeah, Hugh Romney.
Oh, I thought you said Mitt Romney.
No, Hugh Romney. That's the real name.
He did all that
Gravy.
Acid 50 years ago and he's still alive?
From the hog farm.
He knew something then, didn't he?
Back to the plugs.
Yeah.
This week on John Arezzi's Pro Wrestling Spotlight, then and now, we review an episode from September 1989 with Paul E. Dangerously and Dave Meltzer. Hear these guys 30 years ago at pwspod.com or wherever it is that you find your favorite podcast. And of course, the 605 Super Podcast, The Mothership. That's all I could do this week.
There you go. You had mercy on me, but not on purpose.
605pod.com, available wherever it is that you find your favorite podcast. Of course, so many of you have gone through the archive. So many new people have. Thank you so much. Episode 100 truly is just about done. Stay tuned. I'm still not exactly happy with it, so I got to change a couple things. But
you got to lay those guitar tracks down again, right, Tom? Tom Schultz?
You keep comparing me to Tom Schultz. That's the wrong analogy, I think.
You're a perfectionist.
I am a perfectionist. Although Boston I don't know, it's a few hits.
Come on!
No, I mean, like, honestly, out of all the things you can compare it to, Boston?
The most long-awaited third album.
The most long-awaited third, I guess Guns N' Roses' album was technically not their third because they did an LP and then they also did, well, whatever.
Whatever. And it sucked anyway.
605pod.com. Also want to remind you that you can go to the Arcadian Vanguard video channel where the Jim Cornette archives are, as well as videos from Stick to Wrestling with John McAdam and Sean Goodwin, and the 605 Super Podcast, and episodes of Ron Fuller's Studcast. Check it out today. More podcasts are going to be going up on there very, very soon. And that's, of course, the Arcadian Vanguard video channel. And real quick, while we're talking about it, Jim, go to the official Jim Cornette YouTube channel, tinyurl.com/official Corny YouTube, or just go to YouTube and search for Jim Cornette. It is your one-stop shop, your central hub of all things Jim Cornette. Get full episodes, get clips from episodes, and omnibus collections, and much, much more to come. And see the exclusive Travis Heckel artwork, which so many of you go absolutely bananas for. And of course, that's tinyurl.com/official Corny YouTube.
And there, and search for it. I'm not hard to find, motherfuckers. Just search for me. And, you know, I was thinking about this before we do our reviews of the programs. I was thinking about this the other day when I've been looking at Twitter for the past couple of days. Whenever I say anything to the bone, get a little too close, strike a nerve, as Dennis Condrey used to say, with these all petite wrestling fans, the cosplay wrestling fans, the silly wrestling crowd. And they're all over Twitter, and they're all offendable. They're all just offendable. And it reminds me, nothing has changed, Brian, since the 1980s with wrestling fans. When it comes down to it, even though everything has changed, nothing has changed. This is just like my Twitter right now is just like when I would go into the TBS studios on Techwood Drive in Atlanta on a Saturday morning, and old Charlie McGowan, who worked in the office in Georgia for years, and he and Scrappy refereed, Charlie brought the ring, and he would bring to me a box of mail from fans. I was the only heel that got any fan mail whatsoever. Everybody else would get a couple of letters, but I got boxes full. But it wasn't fan mail. It was hate mail. And I would say 80% of them, and the people who got the Midnight Express scrapbook, those lucky individuals, have seen a bunch of this reprinted. So you know it's legitimate. The one girl even sent me and I picked this just for you, and stuck a booger on the paper and drew a circle around it and mailed it to me.
That's commitment.
But I would, at 80% was letters written in pink and purple ink and sometimes even crayon and the frilly markers from teenage girls who were so offended by what I had said or done to or about the Rock and Roll Express that this was an actual quote. "I can't wait until I turn 18 so I can find you and kill you," said little Chrissy Mae Adkins from Columbus, Georgia, age 13. Others would use the most profane language. You suck donkey dicks, you fuckity McFuck, said little 12-year-old Penelope Ford of, Dimwit, Virginia.
Penelope Ford?
Well, whoever. I'm making up names. Is that somebody's name?
Yeah, that's a female wrestler from AEW. She used to be Joey Janela's girlfriend.
Oh, good Lord. All right. Well, okay. Well, maybe that was, I don't know. I'm just saying, the point is, these young girls hated me, wanted to kill me, used language that their parents would never let them out of the house in public until they turned 18 again to me, wished death upon me because of the things that I had said on television about the Rock and Roll Express, none of which I really meant because we were working. But now, those same fans, well, not those same fans, because some of those same fans are fucking now not 14-year-old girls, but fucking almost 50-year-old girls. But the wrestling fans, the ones that are so smart, if you say something about Kenny Olivier or the Young Fucks or all these other little darlings, you get the same reaction. But these are grown people. Or at least they have reached the age of maturity that most people in most countries consider legal. They're not even little teenage kids. They're not even writing in crayon. They have smartphones and they're tweeting me on Twitter. But they're still as basically, and there's another thing. Somebody else on Twitter said, well, Cornette just liked it when back in the old days when all the fans were redneck imbeciles and they believed all this shit was real. And now we're all smart and we're more intelligent and we can't be fooled like that. Let me ask you a question. Brian, and you're in the middle generation, but you're not as old as me, but you're older than some of these people.
Some.
But what is the definition of smart and stupid here? When I was a fan, we were buying tickets and paying to see and interested in and watching on television a sport that was presented, whether you like it or not, it was presented seriously as a technical sport where people were yelling and screaming at each other because they hated each other, and they were being matched against each other because they had something to prove or something to win or something to gain, and they beat the literal fucking snot out of each other. Now, there may have been something going on, and we knew that there was something going on, but we didn't know exactly what, etc. But we did know that we were watching and paying to see people who had interesting personalities and some physical charisma yell and scream at each other, get mad at each other, and want to beat each other up over money or possessions or personal issues, and then have a fight and beat the snot out of each other. And some of it at the lower levels was pretty boring, and some of it didn't look too good, but everybody was being serious about it. And at the better level, the more professional level, the main event level, the money drawing level, these guys were good enough to suspend your disbelief, to sweep you up in the emotion in the arena of all the other people that were buying into this shit too, and get you yelling and screaming because these guys are beating the fucking snot out of each other. That was wrestling. Now the fans paid to see that back then. The modern fans think that they were so stupid. They were like the local yokel that runs the Ferris wheel at the county fair. But meanwhile, these current modern MIT graduates with degrees from major universities that are so learned and intelligent and stick their pinky out when they drink their fucking tea, they're so brilliant that they are paying more money than we ever did to buy tickets or pay-per-views or subscribe to whatever the fuck to see a bunch of people who admit that they are pulling your leg and putting you on and don't really mean a bit of it, engage in fucking play fighting, imitating video games, wrestling the Invisible Man, throwing people around with their teeny peenies, and generally fucking sticking their thumbs in their ass, sometimes literally, and fucking thumbing their noses at you because it's a fucking shit show and it's a goddamn clown show and it's a bad Saturday Night Live sketch. And going in, you indie cosplay wrestling fans who spend money on this, that you're going to see that shit and you still pay and you like it. So which generation of fans, Brian, do you think are the fucking brain surgeons around here?
Well, this brings up an interesting question. I've heard Jarrett say in the past that it's his belief that the fans in his territory mostly knew it was a work. So then it becomes, what is kayfabe? Is kayfabe the fans believing, or is kayfabe the wrestlers going out of their way to make sure that you have a reason to believe in them? Presenting themselves and the product in a way that, even if you think it's a work, even if you know for sure it's a work, you can lose yourself in it. That, because people say they're like,
yes,
people forget, people are different now, Jim. Everyone knows it's fake. Look, there have been exposés about wrestling going back to the beginning of time. I've always been of the belief that the majority of people knew it was a work.
And I will agree with you on that. Not only the majority of the population because of the exposés, but down deep in some level, most of the people in the building, not all, and we know this to be a fact also, but more than 50% of the people in the building knew there was something going on somehow, but they had no idea what, to what extent, how it was perpetrated, who did it, to what ends, or for what reason. Would you say that is correct?
Yeah. And I'd say that was the fun of it, was going there and seeing what was going to happen and losing yourself in it.
And the top guys proved me wrong. right? And the wrestlers would not admit it, and the promoters would not admit it, because obviously that was part of the point. There is no reason, and this is what gets back to what I've said before. Technically, that I'm the same as everybody else. We're all wrestling fans, so we all want to do something in it that we like, or see something that we like, or whatever. But technically, once that everybody had it beaten over their heads and slapped into them that this is all a work, there's really no reason to do this. There is no reason for professional wrestling to happen otherwise than if you are trying to convince people who are skeptical. If you're playing it straight and you're trying to present a contest, that's the reason for professional wrestling. It doesn't make sense any other way, to be honest.
Yeah, you don't need guys winking at the camera.
But anyway, I got mad because the wrestling fans of yesteryear were the ones who would defend the business. Were the ones, they would get in fights if somebody said, well, it's goofy and it's silly and it's fake and it's bullshit. There would be fights started. The wrestling fans of today speak worse of wrestling in their own way than the people who hated it and thought it was a bunch of bullshit back then, because they're the ones who are saying, well, it's supposed to be silly and fake and funny and entertaining and nobody should take it seriously. That's actually worse. They use worse appendages to describe the business now than the people who hated it back in the old days. Then now the people who don't really know anything about wrestling and don't like it, they just say, oh yeah, it's a big business on TV. They're kind of halfway putting it over. And the wrestling fans are shitting on it. That's supposed to be fucking stupid with the, I don't know that the fans are not part of the problem here. I've said it's the wrestlers that make the fans think that it's okay to think this. The cosplay wrestlers make the fans think that it's okay to view the business this way and it's acceptable. So technically it's their fault, but now these fucking fans, and I'm not talking about all the members of the cult of Cornette out there that's listening to me. I'm talking about these fucking morons that aren't listening, or they'd be smarter than they are, and that, think that this goddamn thing should be a Saturday Night Live sketch. I just don't, and then they fit right in with they're always offended. Have you seen the girl, the twat on Twitter, the Twitter twat, campaigning to have me boycotted and banned from polite society here this past week? She's in and out every once in a while. I
have not. I'm unaware of this.
Okay, well, this goes back to, and they're, like I said, they're all so easy. Remember I did the Andy Kaufman thing, you ought to be back in the kitchen rattling the pots and pans around. Yeah. No, to the TMZ wannabe guy, right? And he was like, oh, I can't believe he said this. And it was Andy Kaufman. I figured the fucking Hollywood guy would get it, right? So anyway, remember a couple of years ago, we reviewed a match from one of the UK promotions, and I watched it on YouTube or wherever it was. And the first thing I saw was the ring announcer in the ring. And this guy had these big floppy tennis shoes on. I'm not sure they were even tied, and some baggy sweatpants and some fucking floppy, like big shirt that's too big for him, like maybe the rappers wear. And he's got a baseball, he's bald headed, shaved bald, even though he's a young man, got a baseball cap turned backwards. And, and he looks like, a homeless bum, right? And I mentioned in the review, I said, well, the first thing I see is the fucking ring announcer. And he's dressed like a fucking bum that just hopped off a fucking train, or, they got from a homeless shelter. I said, they're dressing that way for a show. They ought to have taken him out and hung him in the parking lot. And then I continued on with the review of the match. And then I found out later on the ring announcer was also the promoter of the show.
That's right. That's right.
And somebody said, what's his gimmick? He's a stand-up comic. Oh, so he's a stand-up comic from the homeless shelter and tells all those funny stories about the soup kitchens. What the fuck? Who gives a shit, right? But this guy flipped his fucking wig, lost his shit. As he suggested that I should be taken out and hung by the neck until dead in the car park. And to wish ill on this guy, this stupid fuck in the dressed like a bum in the ring, was my only point of this critique of this match, because I'd never say anything else about this guy ever again, right? But he took it personally, and he flipped out about it. Well, that's been a couple of years ago. Well, now there's a girl on Twitter, and I'm sorry if there's any special issues going on with her, whatever. I think she's just like a Rock and Roll Express teenage girl fan, and she's got the purple hearts and flowers and everything, and she's in love with some wrestler. I don't fucking know. But anyway, every once in a while she'll pop in with what a disgusting fucking human being I am. And a couple of days ago, she pops in with, well, and you're all saying you're a misogynist and hate, whatever. I said, hey, toots. I said, get back in the kitchen and cook something, right? Oh, goddamn. Oh, Jesus Christ. You just shut your pie hole, chick, and get back in the kitchen. Oh, my God. And so then she picks up on the fucking, well, he encouraged suicide. What?
Oh, my God.
He's encouraging people to kill themselves. And so I tweeted and she got like all four of her friends on this too. Well, yeah, encourage this guy to hang himself in a parking lot. I never say anything about hanging himself. I tweeted back. I said, I never say anything about him doing himself. He could have had help. That's entirely up to the situation. Right? Because what the fuck is the matter with these fucking people? Do they exist in this world? If they're offended by this shit, can they possibly walk to the store and back without having a fucking complete mental breakdown? And it's this easy to just wind these fucking nitwits up? But yeah. Oh my God, he's promoting suicide. Ban him. Everybody fire him. Ban him from polite society. He's promoting suicide. Good Lord.
It's this whole cancel culture where they want to, anything that someone doesn't like, they want to use that to try to get someone fired or thrown off something. And, sometimes it happens to someone that you really think is a despicable human being. And sometimes you're just like, what is this? What is this? Yeah,
it's like
mob mentality.
But see, they have to take everything too far, like they're wrestling. Everything, like we've talked about in wrestling, anything works until you take it too far and do it too much. Yes, Donald Trump should be impeached and thrown out of office and straight into fucking prison because he's a goddamn criminal that has fucking put the entire world in danger. Not to mention an asshole and a fucking ignoramus and goddamn pig-faced piece of shit. Yes, impeach the president, kick him the fuck out. Get rid of him instantly. But you don't have to fucking cancel the guy that sold fucking, rotten fruit to you at the fruit stand on the corner. You don't have to get that fucking fired up about everything. You butthurt pussies. Don't knock fans from my generation. Like I said, at least we were buying tickets to see grown men beat the snot out of each other. Not a goddamn 98-pound Japanese schoolgirl playing patty cake with her invisible friend while the referee cosplays as his favorite video game character. Because then that makes you all a bunch of fucking little fucking dweebs. Good God. And once again, the ones that think they're smartest to the wrestling business, because it's all supposed to be fake, are the easiest to rile up if you insult their favorite fake wrestlers. Just because I used to do it working, and now I'm doing it shooting. The only difference in the death threats between the rock and roll and today. It's not my fault if I have principles, and it's not my fault that I was right again. Because I said about a year and a half ago, they can't be serious. Let them prove me wrong. So far, they haven't been serious. Don't fucking blame me. And another topic this past week that has kind of wound me up a bit, and I just don't understand it. It's like finding out somebody that you thought was not only a friend, but somebody that, you could talk to, somebody that was a like-minded person, somebody you respect and admire because they have talents of some respect or not. And then you find out they voted for Trump. And then your image of them as a human being is ruined because what the fuck is wrong with you? Right? That's all whenever I am in that situation, I think that there's a neon sign flashing on my forehead saying, what the fuck is wrong with you? I have gone out of my way because it was true and it was right to defend Dave Meltzer, Uncle Dave, on the program when people were blistering him about shit that he was obviously right about and correct about and reported on the time. And, Bruce and all these guys that, basically Dave, made look bad because he reported facts. make shit up and try to fucking discredit him, and I've tried to take up for him because as a journalist, especially with his knowledge of history and the obituaries and the business retrospectives and everything, and he studies the numbers and all that stuff, he's great. But God damn it, when did he become, like, did you see that episode of South Park where Randy Marsh started having to claim to like the kids' music, the tween wave music, even though it sounded like shit, and it really did. You'd put the fucking headphones on and the music would play, and then suddenly it sounded like people wet farts and diarrhea in your fucking ear. But Randy Marsh is sitting there going, but Sharon, I like it. You just don't understand the kids. Dave has become Randy Marsh. He's defending this to a ridiculous degree. And I want to discuss with you, Brian, as a level-headed human being who's also known Dave for a while. I'm not trying to knock Dave here. I'm not calling Dave a motherfucker. But it makes it so hard to defend him when he's right, when there's this one thing that he's just way out in the woods on, and it's starting to get obvious. He tweeted comparing Marco Stunt being allowed to wrestle in AEW to Bruiser and Crusher using Little Bruiser, the midget, as their partner in a 6-man with the Blackjacks and Bobby Heenan.
Yeah, that was the one I saw. That was the first time I ever jumped in and just said, come on. As an analogy, it doesn't work, and I don't understand why Dave didn't see that, and I wasn't going to go back and forth with him. So he put that tweet out, and the tweet actually said, because you were saying how stupid it is with Marco Stunt. He said, yes, they ruined wrestling by booking Marco while Blackjack Lanza and Bobby Heenan regularly worked with people smaller than Marco in main events. Plenty of companies have had big money backers and major television and gone nowhere. You even work for more than one. So I responded to that and said, you're comparing Marco Stunt to midget wrestler The Little Bruiser? Because it just seemed preposterous.
Well, it said that many times it was Mulligan and Lanza and Heenan against Bruiser and Crusher and Little Bruiser, and the idea was that Little Bruiser ran from the wrestlers, and then once that they got Bobby Heenan in there, Little Bruiser would humiliate him by beating him up, which is the whole idea of a manager.
He was brought in as a comedy performer to go against the wimpy heel.
To humiliate Bobby Heenan. And that was, and yes, and that is the proper usage of comedy in wrestling. But no, he wasn't out there doing Hurricane Ranas on Blackjack fucking Mulligan.
No, Lanza wasn't selling for him.
And regularly was a main event in Indianapolis that lives on tape because it's on Wrestling Gold. And you can see it. As a matter of fact, spend $9 at JimCornette.com and see the match that Dave was talking about.
Actually, you guys do commentary on it.
Yes, me and Dave do commentary on it.
I forgot about
yes.
that.
And you will see that there's absolutely no fucking similarity. And the people are going crazy because the Bruiser and the Crusher are kicking the shit out of the heels and trying to drag Heenan to the midget so the midget can beat Heenan up. And the cops are trying to hold him back. There's more heat for that if you do it right. And instead of some fucking small child, and Little Bruiser looked like he could kick the shit out of Marco Stunt. By the way, because he looked like a little Dick the Bruiser. That was the whole fucking gimmick. But it's insane. And I'm trying to think, is Dave worried? Because I understand that he got into this whole thing on the bet and the all-in, and the Bucks named a move after him, and he just loves the PWG shows where all of the fucking mark wrestlers can get together in front of very few people and risk their lives to have the great matches in front of each other. And etc. But so they're all personal friends. Is he worried that people are going to think he's an old fuddy-duddy if he doesn't just bless this now without question? Is he worried people are going to think that he was wrong, or his credibility? Have they been so nice to him that he can't bear to just tell them the truth? Is he so fixated on the business end of it? Because yes, they've proven that there are people that are going to fucking pay to see whatever the fucking silliness this shit is. Whether it be, I'm not just talking about All Elite Wrestling, but we had him here on the show a while back, and he wouldn't just eviscerate fucking Dick Boy for the dick flip. He said, well, for that audience, but it wouldn't work on TV. Well, for any audience, it's fucking stupid and disrespectful to the wrestling business.
The Ultimate Warrior worked for his audience. You ever see how he was covered in the Observer?
Yes, and
the
Dave hated
warrior?
him
Yeah.
because he was the shits. Because his promos were the shits.
No, he was perfect
and his
for
work
that
was
audience.
The shits.
He was perfect for that audience.
He was perfect for that audience, but as a wrestler, he was the shits. And Dave reported that. And now, whether he's perfect for this audience or not, he needs to have the same standards he did for the anabolic warrior or the poor junk food dog, who at least at one time was an awesome performer. Have the same standards and say, no, they've gone too far. I love these guys. I want them to succeed, but you can't have the legless man, the bearded lady, and JoJo the dog-faced boy on national television straight out of the goddamn playground. And here they are on Broadway. Is he worried that people will unsubscribe or think he's an old fuddy-duddy? Is he worried that his friends will get mad and excommunicate him and not let him come hang out? And Dave, I'm not trying to be hard on you, but the thing that pissed me off the most was that 3 people have said on his audio shows, 3 people have emailed me to say that on Dave's audio shows, which obviously I don't listen to because I don't listen to anybody else's. Why would I listen to his? I don't listen to mine. He said, well, Cornette's working the gimmick. I have told Dave Meltzer on probably at least 2 or 3 different occasions, please make sure to tell these fuckers when you see them, whether it's the invisible hand grenade guy or the fucking whoever it is, because Kenny Olivier tries to deflect what I say about all of them with, well, that's just Jim trying to make money and work his gimmick and do it. If you think I need to make money off of knocking you fucking prissy prancy ass-faced clown, but they try to deflect that or weaponize the criticism by just making people think I'm doing a gimmick. Well, I don't have to, as everybody knows by now. When a couple of years ago, when I just decided to be myself and start telling the truth, I've been more successful ever since then than I ever have in my life. I can have an opinion. I have respect for wrestling. I have respect for the wrestling business and the links that you used to have to go to get in it and what it is supposed to be and how it's supposed to be treated. And I don't have any respect for these people that shit on it. And I don't know why Dave does either, because he's been a fan all this time. He's talking about the business numbers. As we've said, a bunch of people will pay to see that shit, apparently. It doesn't make it good fucking wrestling. A bunch of people paid to see the anabolic warrior, but he was still the worst pushed wrestler in a major company in the history of history. And he reported that. So he needs to report now. They're going too far, putting their high school friends and their fucking kids on the program. Is he so fixated on this new audience, making a new audience for his newsletter of these video game cosplay fans that he cares more about AEW's individual business than the wrestling business as a whole? Because every time people see that shit on national television, or every time people go to these indie shows where they're pulling all these clowns from, these My Little Dog Pockets and the invisible hand grenade guy, and they think that's what wrestling is supposed to be. I don't want to see any more of that. That's fucking stupid. Is that good for the wrestling business as a whole? Or just if it makes $1, even if it's insulting, stupid bullshit, it's okay. Apparently nobody has any pride anymore. I am not going to fucking be dickless enough to defend this shit when they do stupid shit. That's the problem. Too many people are defending it, enabling it, or going along with it. And the same people that are outraged that I have a problem with the 100-pound, 5-foot-tall wrestlers, the legless man, hand grenade, the dick flip, whatever the fuck, are also the butthurt pussies that think that my generation of fans were fucking idiots, and they're paying to see, literally, in some cases, people pull blow pops out of their trunks and stick them in other people's mouths. So there's today's fans, and I don't know why. Do you have any ideas on Mr. Meltzer?
Well, I have a lot of respect for Dave, and
I do too. That's why I can't figure this out.
I've been reading The Observer since I was 13. When I was a teenager, I got every single back issue, so I've read every single issue of The Observer ever. I've read a lot of the stuff he wrote as a teenager, either in his own bulletin or in Ron Dobratz's bulletins. I've probably read 96% of every single word Dave Meltzer's ever written about wrestling. I think he genuinely likes this style of wrestling. I think in a lot of ways, it's the ultimate end of a lot of the things he championed for many years in The Observer. Not necessarily the silliness. That I don't think he should be justifying. But just the nonstop flips and the nonstop super kicks. And I see it as a complete de-evolution in psychology. And I know he's defended that the psychology is different. And, it's kind of like when you first see Lucha and you have to adapt to it. I don't see it with a lot of this stuff. It's just move, 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 kick out, kick out, kick out. Everyone has endless power. But I think Dave genuinely likes the Young Bucks and some of those guys. And look, after Tony Khan convinced his daddy to open his checkbook, how many phone calls do you think it was before he called Dave Meltzer? I think Dave's rooting for these guys. Tony Khan's an Observer reader. I think Dave's rooting for them because, look, and I don't think it's wrong that he's rooting for them in a lot of ways because a healthy wrestling business is good for everybody. It's good for the business of the Observer, but it's good for the wrestling business. He should be rooting for the success of it. But I think what I see, my perception, is a blind defense at times. And I know he probably wouldn't agree with that, but it looks to me like a blind defense. And the thing that bothers me about the whole calling your thing a gimmick, and I assure everybody this is not a fucking gimmick, is that Dave's...
Boy, in that case, I should have already won 6 Oscars, shouldn't I, in Hollywood somewhere?
But the thing is, Dave's working a gimmick on Twitter. And he's basically admitted that his behavior on Twitter was something that someone convinced him to do to drive numbers up. And I've heard from a lot of Dave's friends. We have a lot of mutual friends. Friends of his from the 80s, friends of his to this day. And they all go, what the fuck's wrong with him on Twitter? Why does he behave like this? He's destroying his legacy.
Well, see, now you're killing something for me because I was convinced that he just got his point like I did a while back where he just doesn't give a fuck and he's just telling people that are fucking with him what he thinks of them.
No, it's a business strategy. And again, I'm not saying that's wrong.
Anybody not be just genuine? I just want everybody to be genuine. I just like fucking with people that say stupid shit to me.
But I think he genuinely likes Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks to the degree that he puts them over. I think that's legitimate. I don't think that's him trying to fit in or him trying to... I think, like I said, read the Observer. Go back and read every Observer since the 1980s.
Okay, so you like... jazz hands, you like Harpo, you like fucking, whatever, the video game wrestling. How does this, it's all the way down to the Marco stunts and the fucking legless people and the fucking dick spots and all this other stuff.
Well, that's the other thing. They've capped themselves. They are niche and at best super niche, and that's it. If you cap yourself, and you make it so that it's not going to be widely accessible beyond the people that are susceptible to it, that's a problem. And that's the big issue. If you want to tell me you can use Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks in a way on that show to benefit the company, I believe it. If you want to tell me Marco Stunt and all these freak show acts in the fucking battle royals and all the fucking stupid shit in the librarians, you want to tell me that's good because it gets over to that crowd? No. Because it gets over to that crowd, but it prevents a bigger crowd from ever accepting it. I am a 39-year-old wrestling fan. If you want to tell me I'm out of touch, I will gladly accept it. I'm a 39-year-old wrestling fan. I desperately want a modern product to like. I've given AEW multiple chances. I talk about how much I don't like certain things, and people will say, well, you don't like it, you shit on everything. No. I have to also talk about what I like. Some people don't hear that.
Yeah, we for a month now, we've been saying, part of this show was good and part of it was bad. And boy, that was something on AEW was the best thing of the night or whatever the fuck, but they don't listen to that anyway because they're not that fucking bright to begin with.
NXT doesn't have anything that makes me want to turn the channel.
Like exactly.
Sometimes I'll say, you know what? I have to go to the bathroom or I want to get something to eat. Like, this is the match I can get away. AEW has shit where I'll say, let's see what's happening on CNN right now. Let's see what's happening on the other channel right now. Let's see, God forbid when baseball season starts, I won't have any interest. But that's the issue. For every good moment, and we'll talk about it with the review, I thought AEW started out real strong. And I thought it became a major drag for me as the show went on from there. And that's the issue.
Well, but here's the thing. What's the first rule of the Hippocratic Oath? That first do no harm. Why do they insist on every program putting some stupid indie fucking goof out there that the audience in the building raves for because they know what's going on, and the television audience not only doesn't know what's going on but goes, this is fucking stupid, or why is this happening, or what the fuck kind of joke is this? And it's the same thing. People have said, well, your NWA show ain't so good. You know, some of those guys don't have good bodies, and some of them guys did this and that and that. Here's the problem. You're still not addressing the root of the issue. Nobody on the NWA program is winking and nodding and laughing and silly and play acting at being wrestling. They are doing wrestling. They are pro wrestlers doing a pro wrestling show, not cosplayers doing a fucking clown skit. I've never said that anything that I'm ever involved in has to be all WrestleMania main events with the greatest wrestlers in the world, but they all have to be serious. Before I took the fucking MLW spot, fill in for Shivani, and I don't know what the fuck's going on with that now either. But anyway, who knows? I don't fucking know. I'm out. They treated me wonderfully. I had fun, and I got to work with MJF and Hammerstone and Selena De La Renta and some of those guys. Fucking Joseph Fatu. I don't want to leave anybody. The Von Erich boys, great kids. But I had to ask at the start, Court, are you going to book the Invisible Man? Is there going to be any dance routines? No. Well, I forgot to ask, what about, thumbtacks and fucking goofy hard staple guns and this Jimmy Havoc fucking corpse? When some of that shit started getting a little queasy for me to have to call and put my face on, is much of the hardcore shit. Because when you have so much chaos, you don't have any chaos. But I'm sorry, but I, at this point in my life, and I don't have to do anything else different, am only going to be associated not with wrestling promotions that have up and down the card WrestleMania main event matches, but that are serious about their business, and they employ wrestlers, whether good, bad, or indifferent, starting, veteran, rookie, whatever, that are serious about their business and are going to do wrestling instead of the phony bullshit. What do they call it? The kids these days, the ironic wrestling. Yeah. Isn't it ironic? I thought that was like rain on your wedding day.
Well, that's actually not irony, but yeah.
Well, whatever the fuck. We never used that word. That and relevant. Suddenly. Now everybody's ironic and everybody's relevant. But that's the issue to me, is that they're shooting themselves in the foot. And for God's sake, do you think me, as a wrestling fan for 47 years and a professional in the business for the past 37, would I not want I've started several wrestling promotions to compete with Vince McMahon, or enabled a couple of promotions to be in existence to compete with Vince McMahon. You think I wouldn't want to fucking do it again? If I heard a billionaire was going to start a wrestling promotion, there was a chance that wrestling would be treated properly with some respect, sports-based presentation, all that type of thing. Of course, I was pulling for that, as I've mentioned, for the first 5 to 7 minutes until I heard who apparently was going to be involved in this fucking fiasco. And I was like, okay, apparently I'm not going to get excited about this, but they could still prove me wrong. That was the lead up. They can still prove me wrong. They can still play this straight. They can still be serious. They can still find world-class talent. They can still produce a major league production. I was thinking they could still prove me wrong right up until the television debut. Well, actually, of course, there were those little previews with the Battle Royal and all this other stuff, and then you see what kind of fucking fanhood they have fostered, where they don't want anything, I think, sometimes serious. They just want to shush at the librarians that should be boiled in oil and have their fat sold for soap.
Oh, my God, he just said that.
Yeah. I wanted to make sure I got that in. I'm promoting death now. Actually, okay, here's the thing. If somebody was to take Kenny Olivier, if I was some supervillain, was to grab Kenny Olivier and have him hanging upside down over a vat of boiling oil, and then have the rendering machine there to have the fat there to go to the soap maker. And you said, okay, Cornette, you won't get in trouble. Nobody will ever know about this. Just give us the high sign and we'll drop this motherfucker in that boiling oil and that fat will be on the way to the soap factory. I probably wouldn't do it. Not really. I'd probably say no. It was just a figure of speech. Just lower him down and break a few of his fingers so he can't do that jazz hands bullshit and let him go. That's what I'd say. but it's a figure of fucking speech. If you don't like my figures of fucking speech, don't listen to my fucking speech.
Jim, you asked before about how this is all getting on the air, and I think the answer is something I've been saying for a long time. Too many cooks and also no strong leadership. You need, for a wrestling company, but any company, to succeed, you need good, strong leadership, and they don't have that right now. And we'll see how that develops. And just to put the nail into what I was saying a little bit earlier, so I responded to Dave. I said, you're comparing Marco's stunt to midget wrestler The Little Bruiser. And Dave responded, did Little Bruiser root in the industry when he main evented as compared to a guy in a TV match? I saw little guys on TV every year and at live shows, and they were also a total expose since they did so much slapstick. But they were an attraction in that era and were used. And I responded, so the answer is yes. I still...
You are comparing.
Yeah. I mean, that's...
And besides that, and I've talked to guys at the old men at the Louisville Gardens and various civilians that got a kick out of the midgets, but they thought the midgets were fake, but that didn't mean they thought oh, that's fun for the kids, but it's not like the real wrestlers. It was a completely different atmosphere at a completely different time, and it was presented a completely different way, and Dave is reaching real bad to come up with analogies and corollaries and corollaries and coronaries and whatever the fuck else that he's trying to come up with. And I don't get it from somebody that's that smart in so many other ways. And once again, to put the fucking nail in the coffin of what I was about to say, yes, I would have been excited about this promotion starting up had I not had an inkling from the start that it was going to be indie wrestling with a big budget on national TV and in the long run do more harm than good because it won't sustain nor grow an audience, and in turn it will piss off or sour the television networks of taking this step again if somebody wanted to do this thing seriously. So that's why when I see Chris Jericho or Cody or the fucking guys, or the Adam Pages, or that Sammy Guevarra, or the young guys that look like they have a fucking shot at being taken seriously in the business, I would rather them not be on the same program with this fucking dog and pony show bullshit, and we'll talk about that here just in a second. But if one part of the program is so cringe-inducing that it makes people want to turn the fucking thing off, then how does that help the great match you have in the last two segments?
They cap their audience. It's their own fault.
Let's talk about them then. Because I have notes and I'll share them with you. Did you know that it was kind of fucking, what do they call it, poetic justice, that the movie that preceded All Elite Wrestling that employs Marco Stunt was Ant-Man?
I did not see that.
That was it.
Hey, let me just follow up on what you were just talking about. Hypothetically, if they used Marco's stunt the way that Little Bruiser was used, would you have a problem with it? If he was used as a comedy performer to get even with, a heel manager, a chicken shit manager, they brought in this kid who's going to teach you a lesson, would you have a problem with if he was used in that manner?
Only if he got in there and started doing flying hurricane ranas and wrestling moves, because then it's still bullshit. If Little Bruiser was recognized by the fans, he'd been there, in the arenas before. He looked like Dick the Bruiser and he wore wrestling tights. He was probably heavier than Marco Stunt. He was only fucking 4 feet tall, if that. But if they brought the kid in and said, this is a fucking kid we found off the street or whatever the fuck, and he beat, the manager or the fucking heel up with punches and kicks or whatever that he could make look good, then that's fine. But if you still have the guy going in there doing wrestling moves as good as the professional wrestlers, then that once again makes it look like, well, this shit's easy. Any fucking schlub can do it. And that's one of the problems with putting Marco Stunt in the ring to begin with. So yes, that would be fine. It would be humiliating to be physically beaten up by Marco Stunt. But if Marco Stunt got in there, did a missile drop kick off the top rope, and then fucking did 3 hurricane ranas and then a dive over the top and, perfect, then that's fucking garbage. Wrestling is bullshit. That shows it. That proves it right there in front of you. Turn TV off. We're done. We've answered this question.
All right.
Anyway, I thought that Tony Schiavone and by the way, why could Dustin not ride in the limo?
I was wondering the same thing.
Dustin and Cody get off the plane. There's Tony Schiavone to meet him. And they hug. And then Dustin fucks off somewhere. What, did he have to take a fucking cab to the building? Because he's at the building later on. That's the only, but anyway, it was super serious. I thought, boy, they're really laid back. And then later on, I think Tony was having laryngitis. So I understand why he wasn't talking very loud. But it was a serious thing, you know. Cody Rhodes going to the contract signing for the world title match at fucking the pay-per-view. So, and then they wrap up the angle from last week with Adam Page and Pac and Moxley and Olivier in that package. And then what did you think? I liked the closed door audio gimmick because I just watched Hotel Impossible. And they actually busted the fucking guy that was the manager of the hotel because he wore his fucking wireless mic that he was wired up with. He wore it into a meeting with a guy and was knocking the fucking producer and the show and all that shit, and they played it back for him. So that shit does happen. And I like that. I'm not sure about Tony Khan's performance, but no. Moxley was believable.
Moxley was really good. Tony Khan should not have his voice heard on a wrestling show. You need someone who sounds like an authority, not someone who sounds like a geek. But I think the idea of it, the concept of it, where there's not a camera in there that everyone can't see. Instead, no, it's a closed door, and I don't know who was mic'd. I don't know how the mic picked it up.
That's the other thing. I was going to say, where was the fucking mic? They can see these are the little things. They could have, you could answer those questions like I just did and tell you how it could happen. Bobby Heenan used to do that all the time on TV shoots where he'd have a mic clipped to his shirt and you have the power pack in your pants pocket and it's wireless, right? So it sends the signal. He would go in the fucking bathroom with that thing still turned on and he'd take loud pisses and he'd save up farts and he'd take a wet shit or just, oh God, it hurts. Shit like that. Oh God, it's so hot. All that shit. But anyway, that can happen. Moxley was very believable. They need a commissioner, authority figure, matchmaker, someone, and then now everybody's going, oh, Cornette wants all the old veteran wrestlers. No, somebody that can cut a promo that looks like a senior official that has bass in his voice. Bischoff was a fucking good television performer in that role. He can sign matches. I'd prefer him have a baby face because I think the company should always be baby face. Heel promotions are idiocy, in my opinion. But they need somebody besides Tony that they can establish that can validate matches, change things, make rulings on the spot. They're going to need that.
Yeah, it sounded like Moxley was in the room with some kid.
Well, yeah, and that's the problem. Is there just because Tony is the boss doesn't mean he would be cast to play the boss in a movie. Anyway, but I like closed door audio. Great. The first match, Sammy Guevarra and Adam Page. Is this the first week they've had lime green ring posts?
I don't know. I actually didn't even pay attention to that.
I would have had to have noticed it by now. Lime green ring posts. Just something I noticed. People have been starting to mention this, but the records, because wins and losses matter, right? But here comes Adam Page, who they've desperately been trying to, well, I don't know if they've desperately been trying. They desperately need to build and flesh out and et cetera. And I've seen people commenting on this on Twitter. This top star's record is 50-50. Here's Adam Page, and his record is 50-50 in AEW. And they've been a company for a fucking month, basically, for the television viewer. Brian, how long did Tracy Smothers, how long was he in Smoky Mountain Wrestling before he ever lost once?
Oh, geez. Well, he got there in the fall of 1992. He won the title in the spring of 93. I'm not sure when he first lost.
It was either 4 months or 5 months, I believe. But the point is, what the fuck? You're just reminding people, unless you had a plan going in that guys like this that need the wins would be winless or would be lossless, why would you do the record thing? Because now everybody is 50-50. And then they work this match 50-50. I like Sammy Guevarra. He's got a lot of personality. He's got the facial expressions. His work is good. As we've mentioned, he's painfully small. But while he's acting like a heel with his mannerisms and his facial expressions, and he's acting like an asshole, he's acting like a cocky, sexy guy. He lost the panda bear head, thank God. But he's not acting like a chicken shit heel. And against Adam Page, and at his size, he should have been acting like a chicken shit heel because he's good enough worker to do that shit. But they were going at it 50-50. Guevarra was toe-to-toe with him. And so they were having a good match, but it wasn't, I don't think, the match that either one of them should have had. Guevarra should have been more heelish and more chicken shit, and then get more vicious on offense, because that's the old thing. Boy, you're really a fucking cowardly cunt when you're backpedaling and you're running and you're chicken shit when you're on defense, but then as soon as the other guy makes a mistake and you get in there and you fucking get vicious, you're going to claw his eyes out, like this fucking, just piece of anyway, that type of thing. They were working like they were both on an even keel, physically, reputation wise, where they were being pushed as singles in the company. And whether they're trying to make Sammy Guevarra a star or not, they shouldn't push him to be on a level playing field with babyface Adam Page on a physical basis. Am I right or am I wrong?
Well, you hit on one of the big problems. I think one of the big complaints about WWE for years has been 50-50 booking. But most AEW matches are 50-50 in the matches. This guy's doing good, this guy's doing good. This guy hits you, this guy, it's nonstop 50-50. With that said, I've been very critical of Adam Page. I've told you before, I don't get it. I don't understand it. This was the best match by far.
Yeah.
I've seen him in an AEW. It was also the first match that wasn't 7 hours that I've seen him in an AEW. I don't like the way they lay out the matches necessarily, but I thought it was the best match he's been in. I think Sammy Guevara's got something. And I think him with Jericho, him as that young punk with Jericho, I don't know about the rest of the crew there, but those two, that is money. That right there could be great.
That's what I'm saying. The little stooge, the little punk, he's working like he's the same size as Adam Page, and Adam Page is your baby face, and he desperately needs some oomph to him. You haven't given it to him so far. So you put him in there with that Sammy Guevarra, and the deal is Adam Page looks like a world beater and bounces the little chicken shit around, and he's scared of him. And finally he cheats blatantly, obviously, and takes over. And then he's a vicious little shit. And then finally Page makes the big comeback. And boy, that buckshot lariat, I loved it. And Guevara takes great bumps.
Yeah.
And a bunch of his shit looked good. And then Page's promo was good. Why hadn't he been able to talk like that on live television before? They didn't give him a chance. It was short. But we're going to do some cowboy shit. That's what I want to hear from Adam Page, right? So this was good. It's like this modern generation thinks that every wrestler, I've told some of the guys I was talking to here recently on one of the promotions, when you sit down with a guy to work out a match, you don't say, what can you do? Well, here's what I do. Well, let's all do all of each other's shit. When you sit down with a guy, you go, how is he being presented in this promotion, in this environment, as an opening match guy, a middle card guy, or a main event guy? And I'm going to work with him on that basis. And anyway,
it's what I've been asking for, though. A short, good match from Adam Page, and then a good fiery promo.
And at least somebody got over. Anyway. They follow this up with, I swear to God, I ain't lying. It's at 9:18 or so in the middle of the Wednesday Night Wars, and here comes two girls that I have never seen or heard of before. And I'm pretty sure that I'm not alone in this, that most of except for, once again, for the choir, for the members of the choir, they know all the words to the fucking hymns. But to convert the atheists, you need to explain the shit or build somebody. 2 unknown girls. They went, besides entrances, they went 4 minutes. Then they went through a break. Then they went, which was 2.5 minutes. Then they went another fucking 4. It was like an 11-minute match plus entrances with 2 unheard of girls. In the first segment, they were doing fine until the Japanese girl Hikaru Shida pulled out a chair from under the ring and uses it outside to do a running, jumping knee to Shayna. Just one name, Shayna. They can't even have a girls' match without stunts. Do the hot dog vendors jump off chairs at these shows? Excalibur said that the Young Bucks copied the style of the Rock and Roll Express. I know that Excalibur is from California. I'm aware that weed is legal. I was not aware that he was a member of Wavy Gravy's group and was on the acid. And also somebody said, well, are you happy now? Excalibur said he was a wrestler for 15 years. What I heard was he said he was a wrestler 15 years ago. And he still didn't say where, and everybody's going, where? It's like my fucking heating and air guy that comes in says when he was a kid, he lived next door to the original Masked Superstar in Cadi's, Kentucky. This match didn't need to be on national TV, but they tried hard. There was nothing insulting about it. It was a pretty good girls' match, but it was 2 girls that nobody ever heard of going through a fucking break. Shayna did a great double stomp off the top rope, which I think legitimately rung the girl's bell.
Yeah.
And got a 2 count. And then Shida hit some kind of great move and didn't even cover. And then Shida got a superplex where the Shayna was on the apron and she brought her in over the top and gave her a superplex, got a 2 count. Then hit her with a Falcon Arrow and got a 2 count. And then hit a running knee and got the 3 count. What? Can't they just do a sunset flip? It's a fucking girls match. Pick which one you want to get over and put them out there for 5 minutes to have a nice match with no chairs and somebody do a sunset flip, because neither one of these girls is going to main event. I can't say WrestleMania because nobody on this card except Jericho, who already has. They're not going to main event a goddamn major money drawing pay-per-view. Get somebody over in the girls match in 6 minutes or whatever the fuck with a sunset flip and leave the Falcon Arrows and the giant shit to the goddamn main event because they've already got nothing left to fucking do. But at least Shida is better than Riho. But it's still another Japanese schoolgirl fetish from Kenny Olivier. But what'd you think?
I thought this was a waste of TV time. I thought I paid attention to the World Series while this match was on. I tried to watch a little bit of it at the beginning. I thought it was too cooperative. They were clearly cooperating with each other, and it was choreographed at times. They were telegraphing things they were going to do right before they did it. I lost my mind that it went through a commercial break.
Yeah.
I'm going to say something that's going to be a little controversial, and I'm all right with that.
On this program, how dare you?
I'm a real big fan, and we'll talk about it later, of what NXT is doing with their women's division. I don't think AEW should have a women's division. I don't think they have the talent there to hold up an entire division. And no. I don't think every wrestling company needs a women's division, especially if they don't have people who are ready. I don't think AEW should have a women's division. And I love NXT's women's division. So it's not like I'm against women's wrestling.
Yes, well, yeah, you like good food too, right? So you think the restaurant should serve good food, but if they get some shit that's rotten that just fell off the truck, maybe they shouldn't feature that on the menu. And what was the Brandy Rhodes package? I didn't understand what's going on.
That was called a waste of money. That was called a vanity project. Seriously? That was one thing I heard from a lot of people. Cody Rhodes has been one of the best things on this show. But even with that, I hear from some people, how come Cody's the only one getting these packages? How come Cody's the only one they're presenting this way? And it's even Brandy. Cody at least is going to draw you money. With all due respect.
But I don't know what did the package mean? What was it about? What's going on?
No one knows and no one cares. I mean, that's the whole point. That's the whole point. No one wanted to see that. That was purely for vanity. that got on the air. And I'm sure Brandy Rhodes is a really nice person, but
I have met her and she is. Yes.
That shit does not need to be on. No one wants to see that stuff.
I don't know what it was.
A waste of money. They have a billionaire willing to prop them up and make them the superstars they always dreamt they were.
But how is that video that nobody understood what the fuck it was going to make you a superstar? I'm just wondering what the fuck it was supposed to be about. Her and Kong. I got that because that's their faces were on there. I don't know what the fuck.
I have no idea.
All right. Here's what everybody asked me about. The Rock and Roll Express interview. The Rock and Roll Express are there in Charleston, West Virginia, scene of some of their greatest triumphs to probably the last time that Charleston, West Virginia really did sell out for wrestling. To present the belts to the winners of the World Tag Team Championship tournament. And so they bring him out on stage. What was the guy's name? Chris Van Fleet? Chris Van Fleet interviews the Rock and Roll Express. And Ricky says something about, well, we're back here in West Virginia or whatever. And Hoot says, yeah, we beat the Andersons here 30 years ago. And then suddenly here comes Santana and Ortiz. I won't call them LAX anymore. That's the old gimmick. And laid them out. But why so quick? Why did they've got the Rock and Roll Express there? They're over with the crowd. It's Charleston, West Virginia. They're the NWA Tag Team Champions. They're multiple time. They're WWE Hall of Famers. They're willing to say whatever the fuck. Have them put your teams over. Boy, we're here to present the championship belts to the winners of the tournament. We've seen these matches. Boy, such and such a great team. Such a great team. You know, but finally it's come down to the two of them and, you know, mention some of the other teams that were in the tournament, whatever. Put your teams over. And they could have even said, who eliminated Santana and Ortiz in this tournament? Do we even remember? It's been a fucking mess.
I have no idea.
Well, they could have even said, well, because so-and-so beats, you know, Santana and Ortiz, you know, they're both great teams, but so-and-so was better on that night just for the reason or just something. Or then afterwards, could we have had the announcers say, well, Santana, did they ever even say Santana and Ortiz are trying to make a statement because they lost a controversial decision in the tournament, or they're not the ones competing for they just jump them before they've said almost anything, beat them up. I thought Ricky was going to get some juice, which that actually would have been better than because the power bomb through the gimmick did it look as gimmicked to you as it looked to me?
Yes.
So he took a hell of a bump, but it looked fake. It was like when Watts took the fucking pads off around the ring. I loved that because I've blown my knee and people have turned their ankles. Ricky Santana broke his ankle one time on the goddamn edge of those fucking pads around the ring. And then because there's pads, if you take a goddamn giant suplex on the pad, it hurts you. But people still think it's padded. So they say, oh, well, there's a pad there. But if you take a little pissy bump on concrete, people would pop because it's concrete. So instead of doing what they had already done, which was pretty good to beat up a couple guys, and Ricky can sell his ass off, they set up a staged phony bump as the buzz killer as the last of it. And then the Young Bucks come out to save them. They'd been out there beating the shit out of them for a minute and a fucking half. You could have got the cops from the local precinct. Why didn't somebody come out first and get thrown off the stage or something? But it's just like, okay, right, as soon as the climactic bump, we're done now because there's no way we can get him out of that fucking hole. Here comes the baby faces to save. And they didn't even come out with shampoo and barefoot like they were in the shower.
I thought it was preposterous that those guys would have been able to chase off Santana and Ortiz.
Well, and besides that, and not even carrying anything, not even with a chair or fucking stick or what, you know.
No, just running out there. Hey, can I ask you a question? Because you mentioned Santana and Ortiz, and I'm not very familiar with them, that they are or were LAX. And I remember Homicide and Hernandez were LAX, and Konnan was LAX. Is it like the Cats and Jammer Kids? Are there multiple?
No, it's actually a cross between the Little Rascals and the Bowery Boys. There's a rotating cast.
Okay.
No, actually, because these guys, TNA fucked Homicide around, or not Homicide. Well, they fucked him around too, but they fucked Hernandez around years ago. And then they fucked Homicide around, and Konnan had in TNA a while back had reinstituted LAX with these guys. And I'm not saying they're a rotten team or whatever. I'm just saying on this particular angle, they did a good angle, but they could have built up to it a little more. It was like, we're running low, we're running long on time, or running late, just fucking rush out there. Anyway, more Tony with Cody in the limo, the Dusty story. Dusty was always naked in the locker room or just fucking hanging around. He'd wear his hat and sometimes his boots and nothing else. Cody wants to impress his mother. She's going to be there at the title match. This went a while, but it was serious, and Tony was talking very low because he had laryngitis. But they're building up Cody on the way to the contract signing. That's fine. I got no problem with that. And then we fell in a hole. John Silver, Alex Reynolds, and poor old QT Marshall. And the fucking ring announcer didn't even know how to pronounce his name. It said Marshall. QT Marshall was a guy that Delirious, Hunter Johnston, had found at one of our Ring of Honor camps. And he was a refreshing change of pace in those days. This was 2012-ish. He was actually had size, was a grown adult man, and could work and could talk a little bit and had some personality. And we got him a robe, and he was God's gift, QT Marshall. And because he came out and was like a 235-pound man, grown man, actually working, having wrestling matches, the Ring of Honor fans hated him because he didn't do any flips, and they blamed me for pushing him. Because another one of Cornette's guys, he's worthless. He's a piece of shit. Apparently now he works backstage for him. I don't know, in All Elite Wrestling. So now the fans, I'm sure the modern fans love him now. But anyway, they put poor old QT Marshall out there with these two fucking guys that goddamn the one guy can't be 4.5 feet tall. And I don't know what the fuck. But here comes the team of the Best Friends and Orange Cassidy. My Little Dog Pockets. And this is their Rick and Morty crossover. I have seen Rick and Morty commercials. I have never watched the show. I don't want to now even more than I never did before after seeing whatever the fuck this was. They came out wearing Rick and Morty masks with wigs and fucking eyebrows and outfits. And here comes, I don't know what the fuck. I was embarrassed for Jim Ross. This was stupid. It was a waste of national television time. Somebody even said on the internet, said they didn't even know if any of the Rick and Morty fans would have liked this. It was worse than RoboCop. At least RoboCop was involved in a match with fucking Sting and all the big stars and everything and didn't actually get in the ring. But as crossovers go with the TV network, welcome to fucking Turnerland, All Elite Wrestling. This is what you're going to have to put up with. Except before, when Jim Herd told us in that meeting that they had all the rights to the old MGM movies, so we needed to find a one-legged wrestler so we could name him Long John Silver, All Elite Wrestling already has the disabled wrestling fucking roster ready to go. What the fuck? Just Goof doing his shit, and then the other goofs doing their shit, and it was fucking silly, and it was embarrassing, and it was a waste of national television time. And you know what? Somebody else said about My Little Dog Pockets. Well, they said, this is what they said on Twitter, Brian. They said, well, I just don't understand. If the other guy sold the shin kicks, that'd be a problem, but they don't. So what's wrong with it? When's the last time you were going to get in a fight with somebody and you decided to start it out by play kicking them in the shins?
If someone did that to me, I would have hit him with the left after the first shin kick.
Yeah. That's basically what you would do.
Yeah.
So anyway, garbage. Moving on. Contract signing. Chris Jericho and Cody Rhodes. I will mention the thing that I did not like off the top of the bat here, and then we'll go into the good stuff. Why, even if she was really legitimate, why would they expect that the All Elite Wrestling lawyer would be bought by anybody on television as an attorney when she looked like a 20-year-old model? Even if that really is All Elite's wrestling's lawyer, it looked like a gimmick. I never saw a fucking lawyer for a wrestling company that looked like that. But anyway, this is wrestling. Once again, Chris Jericho and Cody Rhodes, they get together, and this was actually, was it the only good thing on the show? I think it pretty much was, but it was the best thing of the night. Jericho's fantastic. They did a good piece of business back and forth. Then they mug fucking Dustin in the parking lot, and that shit looked good. Plus Jake Hager, that just got fucking disqualified for kneeing guys in the nuts, knees Dustin in the nuts. That was fucking perfect. I mean, could they have made this any better? Or was it just because I was so tired of watching the other shit?
I thought the contract signing was great. I thought the stuff outside went too long. That was just my take on it. But overall, once again, best segment on the show. I've said it. I tweeted it the other day. I'm someone who, whenever I think Chris Jericho's coasting or doing shitty work, I've said it. He is so phenomenal right now. And he is so clearly the top star there. And his promos are exceptional.
And he knows it. And he knows it. And he knows that Cody would be his only competition, but Chris is a heel and Cody's a babyface. That works. And there's nobody else that it's going to be the Jericho show.
I think Chris Jericho is just fucking killing it. He's just fantastic right now. And good segment. Another good segment. And again, the one thing that they get me each and every week, it's weird. It's like the one segment that's serious is the segment with Cody. And then everything else is romper room.
Yeah.
So this was good.
Wonder why. Anyway, and guess what comes up next? Jack Evans, Angelico, and Kip Sabian against Kenny Olivier and the Young Bucks. Help me out with this, because on Omega's entrance, suddenly a weird video popped up. I wrote weird video with words on screen. I thought it was going to be something to where it's supposed to be Olivier's entrance, and then suddenly somebody does a Max Headroom and hijacks the fucking broadcast and is going to give out a message that we're going to, oh my God, it's like, the day the earth stood still, we're coming, whatever the fuck. And it was incomprehensible. I don't know what the fuck they were talking about, what was going on. And it was never referred to. And then he just came out and did his normal entrance, except when he did his normal entrance, he was coming out in a Halloween costume. Either as was he a space alien or was that a skull mask?
I have no
idea. But what was the video?
No one really knows for sure. It seemed to be some sort of veiled shot at New Japan or something. I'm not exactly sure.
What did it have to do with New Japan?
I don't know, because they had that image that was kind of a take of the New Japan Lion image, I thought. And then it was talking about how, whatever it was, we wanted you to leave your friends, and you see the Young Bucks there and this person there. By the way, it is important to note here, because I don't think enough people say this. Go talk to a Japanese reporter. The Young Bucks meant nothing in Japan. Kenny Omega was a big star in Japan. The Young Bucks were not really thought of highly by the Japanese wrestling.
No, they had the junior tag team title belts that, who gives a shit?
I was shocked. I actually thought they were bigger stars there until I talked to a few people who told me, oh no, it was Kenny Omega. No one cared about the Young Bucks. New Japan didn't care about the Young Bucks, which is why the Young Bucks hate New Japan now, because New Japan was like, nah, it's all right. You guys can leave. They didn't care. But right. I have no idea what that video was. I have no idea what it was teasing. And there's just so much shit on this show that I'm guessing maybe it's explained somewhere else on one of their YouTube shows. I don't know, because I don't watch that stuff, but there's too much stuff that's not explained, that doesn't make sense. And then you just wonder about it, and nothing's ever said to you.
Well, here's the thing. It's not a tease if you don't understand that you're being teased. If you're just like, I don't even understand the words that are on the screen, or how does this apply to anything? It's not a tease. There has to be some connection to something you're interested in. So you're being teased to what's going to come. Anyway. And then Omega comes out in a fucking alien outfit or whatever. And then here come the Young Bucks, were dressed like Karate Kid again, like one of their video games.
Street Fighter,
whatever the fuck it is.
And Ryu.
Can you imagine if somebody had gone up to Vince McMahon one night at Raw during the Attitude Era and said, hey, Vince, your top guy, Stone Cold Steve Austin, he wants to go out tonight dressed up as Super Mario. Is that okay? What the fuck? And the best part of this match was, guess who was in the front row doing the jazz hands?
I know who. I know
Stephen
exactly.
P. New. and the law offices of Stephen P. New, the entire law office. What was that, Becky?
Call Stephen P. New.
Stephen P. New, Stephen P. New, Stephen P. New.
You need to sue. An outlaw mud show or two. Still to the rest.
All right, well, Rocky the Ramone's been busy, as you could tell.
Well, there you go. The law offices of Stephen P. New were there in force to do jazz hands in front of Kenny Olivier. And folks, I just want to mention that if you need legal representation, if you need somebody to fight for your rights, if you need somebody on your side, if you've been harmed by a major corporation, if you've been damaged or injured or poisoned or misrepresented, or possibly Tony Khan might need to call Stephen. Whatever the case may be, he's one of us. He's a wrestling fan, and he does the jazz hands. 888-692-8084, newlawoffice.com. You don't even need to have to sue an Outlaw Mud Show promoter, but it helps. But if you need any legal representation, advice, counsel, or someone to champion your rights for you in a court of law, if you need to sue, call Stephen P. New, because New is for you.
The jazz hands were great, but I liked even better at the end of the match when the bald buck was going around high-fiving everyone.
The bald buck?
And Steve no-sold him. He just, he's high-fiving everyone. The guy next to Steve, the guy on the other side of Steve. Steve just stood there and just stared at him. Didn't do anything. It was great.
We should play that next to the fucking pallbearer at Elijah Cummings' funeral that snubbed Mitch McConnell.
Yeah, that was great.
Like, fuck you, turtle. Oh. But anyway, and I feel bad for Steven. He had to watch this match. But anyway, the heels jump-started it. There were dives in seconds. There were no tags whatsoever. There was oftentimes in the ring, there was 2 against 1. Guys came in and out. There was flipping and double teams and blah. And it made no sense because it is what poor old Uncle Dave in his declining years has come to love, is a video game match that makes no fucking sense. And if there's psychology going on here, it's on such a high level that maybe the Thetans and the Batons up on, the Scientology folks, maybe they get it. Maybe it's a higher level that we've got to go through the fucking process for, but there ain't no psychology I can see in this shit. And then they go through the break. And finally, on the other side of the break, now they're tagging a little bit so they can tag Olivier in so he can point, get jazz hands, and prance. And then I wrote, everybody hit everything, no tags, no logic, and Olivier beats Evans. One of these matches is the same thing as all the others. It all looks alike. They get going so fast, they do such convoluted shit that you can't instantly even process who is on whose side. There's no element of a contest here. It's just a bunch of guys cooperating to do shit with each other. And as we mentioned at the top of the program, there's no reason for professional wrestling to be held if you're not trying to simulate a fucking contest. It was just, was I missing something?
No. I brought up the Ultimate Warrior earlier, and I can appreciate, I really like the Omega matches with Okada. And there have been some moments with the Young Bucks I like, but I feel like when I watch them, I feel probably similar to what smart fans felt when they saw the Ultimate Warrior and the Bushwhackers. In that, those fans really seem to like it, but it doesn't do it for me. I watch NXT and I like that match layout. For the most part, that referee in the tag team match we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
And I like the way those matches are laid out a lot better than this of just nonstop flips, no psychology, everyone gets up from everything, and then fans will say, but there is psychology, you just don't get it because you're out of touch.
The NXT matches are laid out by professionals with experience and with not letting the talent do stupid shit any more than possible than you have to these days so that they'll have them around for a while instead of being injured and paralyzed. And anyway, let's hurry up and finish this fucking show because I'm dying. Here come the librarians. I'm embarrassed for all of these people by now. But thank God Moxley comes out and cuts that thing short. But once again, not only it just, especially to bring the librarians out for an entrance And then to have them DDT'd is worse than if they hadn't been there at all, because then you've just reminded people that a bunch more of your wrestlers on your roster have stupid fucking silly indie gimmicks. Why would you put that on television? It's stupid.
And then because it's Tony Khan's idea. That's how come it gets put on television.
Fucking hell. Certainly not.
No, it is. No,
Seriously? We know
librarians. I've been told by someone in AEW that the librarians was absolutely Tony Khan's.
Well, there you go. Like I said, professionals with experience laying matches out. Moxley cut a great promo, had a lot of fucking violence and enthusiasm and passion in it. But here's what I don't understand here. Moxley is wrestling Olivier in a no DQ, non-sanctioned match. Both are baby faces. Both are cheered. Why are they facing each other? Well, I know because the one guy jumped the other guy, but why are both baby faces? And they're both being cheered. But if one guy jumped the other guy, shouldn't the people be mad at one guy?
Man, you're so out of touch, Jim. There are no baby faces and heels. We don't need those tropes from the old days. Everyone's just a person.
Well, then there's nobody. Then there's nobody to cheer for and nobody to boo, which means no reason to buy a ticket.
Well, we haven't thought of that.
Except to see a performance. So once again, what'd you say? You've capped your audience to the people who want to see a performance. If people cared about Kenny Omega, then when Jon Moxley dropped him on his head, the people would have been mad at Jon Moxley, but yet they're cheering Jon Moxley. So they're going to have two baby faces, have a fucking match, but it's going to be no DQ and no rules and non-sanctioned. And Moxley is swearing that he's going to fucking draw blood from the top guy in the top single guy in the company to some people. But yet they're cheering him when he says that. So this is completely, they've somehow dropped the ball on this because that's ridiculous. And that's the problem I also have with this whole fucking group. Do they actually boo anybody except for MJF when he's out there and he's not with Cody? Because everybody else is a babyface. That was the first fucking test you passed in wrestling training school, in OVW or anywhere. If you went out, Rip Rogers will tell you this. This is the way we trained everybody. I don't care whether people have ever heard of you or not. If you go out to the ring for your match, and by the time the bell rings and you lock up with your opponent, if the people don't know which one is the babyface and which one is the heel, both of you are the shits. So that's just that. Now, last match, tag tournament finals, Lucha Brothers versus SCU. And I must admit they surprised me here, at least with the result. First of all, the Lucha Brothers, and I didn't even look at the rest of the records of these people. I don't know what SCU's record is, but I have a feeling their new champions probably are less than 50-50. The Lucha Brothers were announced at a combined weight of 383 pounds. Who the fuck is approving this shit? They're wearing body outfits. You can't tell on TV. You could easily say 415 and nobody would fucking question it, right? But they say 383 pounds out loud. So, okay, here's a couple of 190-pound fucking guys. I remember the only professional wrestler that was ever announced at less than 200 pounds for the first 3 or 4 years that I watched wrestling was Jarrett, who was announced at 198 pounds because he was a fucking genius and realized that he, as babyface, would get all the sympathy because he was the smallest guy. So even when he weighed over 200 pounds, he was announced at 198 pounds. But your fucking badass tag team, combined weight of 383 pounds. All right. It immediately broke out in a 4-way, and once again, there were no tags. Referee Aubrey was my favorite part of this fucking match.
She would have done so well in silent films.
Yes. The face, the gestures, the body language, Marcel Marceau, and she's got the game face, and it doesn't crack. I love her.
Now, she's my favorite referee in the entire business. I think she's fantastic.
But once again, they buried her. They buried all of them. It's a tag match at a sports-based presentation. Remember on the first show, they said tag teams have a 10 count instead of a 5 to get out of the ring because it was going to be fucking hell. No tags, in and out, moves back and forth, dueling chants. Who are the babyface and heels? Everybody did a bunch of shit to each other, all for forever. I like Kazarian. I like Scorpio Sky. I've always praised SCU, and they're a step above everybody else. As far as tag teams, they are obviously, by leaps and bounds, the best tag team because they're experienced, they're veterans, they're in great shape, their shit's good. I can tell that it's also safe, but it looks good. They've got the timing. They don't do stupid shit any more than they have to with this crowd. So they're about, a couple levels above in the ring, all the other tag teams. But if they don't go in there to have a tag team match, and I don't know if the Lucha Brothers, I don't know if you can have a American style tag team match with the Lucha Brothers because they're going to do all their shit, right? And that's great when they're superstars in Mexico and they're having lucha matches. But lucha matches are only going to get over to a lucha audience, whether it's in Mexico or the United States. And if there's supposed to be sports-based presentation and if the world tag title's on the line, let's actually have some people fucking tag. Let's actually have some sense to this. And say they went through another break. Then in the second segment, now they're keeping Scorpio Sky out. The referee won't let Scorpio Sky in, and they're getting heat on Kazarian. After the first 8 or 10 minutes, suddenly they decided, well, let's have a tag team match. Why now? Why not 10? Why is the rules different than when we started? They get the heat on Kazarian. Then they give the coldest tag that I've ever seen to Scorpio Sky because I don't think the Lucha Brothers understand a hot tag because A, lucha, and B, not even any of the Americans understand how to do a hot tag anymore. But this was just an embarrassing walk over and tag your partner cold tag. Then Kazarian did a Hurricane Rana off the top rope onto a guy that was standing on the apron and almost killed himself. And there was no need whatsoever to do that because he was going to Hurricane Rana the guy off to where the guy would take a flip and cannonball his partner or whatever. And it was just so contrived. And he almost killed himself. And I love him and I don't want him to hurt himself. Then they did a huge move and bump one after the other. And then Kazarian powerbombed one of them through a table. And then the finish was a small package on the one guy. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, what'd you think of the finish, the small package?
I love the small package as a finish. If we haven't just been power bombing people through tables and hitting every big move that has ever been fucking the only big moves that hadn't been done already that night by the fucking girls and the fucking midgets and the fucking wrestling rabbits. That was the worst show they've done yet with the best segment they've done yet. My favorite segment.
What was the best segment?
Well, my favorite segment on AEW television so far is either the press box brawl last week or the contract signing this week, just because it reminded me of what it looks like when actual wrestling stars do a serious thing on wrestling.
See, I think the press box brawl was much better. I thought the contract signing was good, but that brawl last week you're right. It looked so much better to this last night by comparison when you put it in the middle of the rest of this show. But yes, the press box brawl followed by the fucking contract signing if we review the pay-per-view, can we just review Cody and Jericho? Because that's all I give a shit about right now. Well, I mean, if you're going to make me buy it, I think we may have to talk about more.
We'll see what we do. Anyway.
It definitely was. You're right, though. It was definitely the worst television show they've had so far.
But here's another thing, and everybody will say, well, it's not easy. I know it ain't easy to write wrestling television. Since I've written, me and Heyman together, the two of us have written more wrestling television single-handedly than any other group of people walking the face of the planet. So don't tell me how hard it is to write wrestling television. And I can tell you that I could have written one better than that. And I can also tell you that the thinness in their talent roster is showing already. And now they've realized, well, we've signed all these fucking clown show goofs, but we can't actually have them go out there for too long or it'll kill the ratings. So we're just going to have them dropped on their head by people or go out and do the fucking bullshit, the cheetah segment in the Tarzan movie. But they shouldn't have wasted all that money on all those people that they can't fucking use on TV because people will change the fucking channel. Should have thought of that before. Your final thoughts on All Petite Wrestling?
My final thoughts were this was the worst show, and this was definitely the episode that I'm sure I'll watch more of it. I mean, obviously we review it here on the show, we talk about it, but this was definitely like I don't need to come back next week kind of episode.
We're going to be modifying our reviews as we move into November. I'll say it right now, we're going to keep the Friday for the experience because we like the taping schedule and everybody's gotten used to it. And we do want to be able to bring you up-to-date happenings. But we're going to tape these programs, we're going to zip through them, and we're going to report on something that's either really good or really fucking stupid. And we may pay more attention to NXT than we do to All Elite, but I do not have time in my life, especially with the holiday sales season at JimCornette.com. If they're not going to help me out any more than this in wanting to watch this fucking thing, then we're going to start zipping through and giving we'll have a good, bad, and ugly segment on the program starting next week. Anyway, let's go to next.
You know, Jim, I really liked NXT this week. I've really liked it for the most part every week. And I think it may be the closest to what I want in modern wrestling. And it feels like, you know, this will piss people off too, but I don't care. AEW feels like it's run by a virgin. And NXT feels like it's run by people who actually get laid. And I don't know for sure that Tony Khan's a virgin, but it feels like it's run by a virgin. And NXT feels like guys who may have been able to get a man or a woman, whatever they may choose, and actually get laid.
We know you have your choices in sexual partners, and we appreciate you. I don't know if it's run by a virgin, but it seems like it's run for virgins. Maybe we could say it that way.
Maybe so.
You don't want to malign. Maybe Tony Khan's a happily married man with 16 kids. But it's more professional. One way or another, it's more professional. And and you could hear, and I'm sorry, I'm hearing Jim Ross cringing on the air sometimes, and I feel bad for him, and I feel bad for some of the people that have to be involved in some of this other stuff when they're sitting there looking at it going, what the fuck are they doing now? And you don't, NXT, whether it's a good match or a bad match, it's a professional run show, and they're not making fun. Believe it or not, once again, the company that indirectly Vince McMahon is in charge of is the better wrestling program, not making fun of the wrestling business and people taking shit seriously one way or the other for good or bad. And I'll tell you, I didn't have a lot of hopes for this program, but it perked up because the start, whoever the female 4-piece band was on stage playing to the video, I'm so glad that TNA's Pyro gave me tinnitus because the ringing was keeping me from hearing some of that fucking music. I don't know what the fuck. And then Io Shirai, the lighting gave me epilepsy on her entrance. And then she wrestles Candice LeRae. And Candice LeRae hangs out with all the fucking clown show wrestlers. And I'm sure she's done many things on video that would be the boiled in oil category for me, so I can't say anything good about her. So I just sat through this, and LeRae moonsaulted a chair. There's a chair in a girls' match. But Rhea Ripley made the save, and I like Rhea Ripley, but I made the notation. They're in a wrestling war, and it was 8:18 p.m. before we got the first girls' match out of the fucking ring. Could we not have some fucking names, some major names open this thing up? Just my thought. What do you
think that's an important thing going against AEW head to head? Obviously, they open with the Cody coming out of the airplane and then go to Hangman Page and Sammy Guevarra. Do you think it's important to have a big name against that?
Bigger than what they had? Yes. What? I'm sorry. But fuck, they have put the Undisputed Era out there to do something. Where's Walter? Give me some drama to lead to the end of the show. Don't give me a 20-minute girls match. Something. Anyway, I loved Finn Balor because he looks serious. He's a badass looking guy anyway, even though he's smaller. I was a big Prince Devitt fan when I watched his matches years ago when I tried to talk him into making an offer for him in Ring of Honor, but that would have required spending money. He needs more bass in his voice, but he tried hard here, and he did say some things that you wouldn't think that he was being allowed to say or whatever the fuck. The marks in the back or the fans in the back or however he phrased it. And besides that, he's been a star on the big television shows, so automatically he's got a lot more recognition, a lot more, what do they call it, the Q factor, where you know who this guy is, than anybody on AEW except for the guys that have been on WWE television. Anyway, you know, at least they've got star power, and he was doing halfway, and what he said, maybe the Prince might come back. The little nod to everybody knows he was Prince Devitt, whatever the fuck. Go ahead.
What did you think of the look of the promo? Him in the ring with just the spotlight on him.
Well, remember, I keep saying the fucking show is dark. They don't have to darken the whole arena because they're in a smaller building. More light, but colors or something. You know what? We've been talking about this. It just all that their introduction. I kind of like the introduction where they just dim everything and have the spotlight on the guys and they stand there and you can see them and they're in shadow. That kind of looks cool. But everything else in the show is dark too. A lot of the entrances are dark. The effects are dark. It's just dark. That's what I thought of it. Am I offending you with that?
No, not at all. I was just curious because it was such an interesting look. You know, I think they should do promos up by like where William Regal stands, and I assume that Kathy girl does some stuff up there. But I thought that would be a great place to do promos because then you get the whole building behind you and below you, and it looks really cool.
Yeah, the old crow's nest, Portland Wrestling.
That's right. Yeah.
Anyway, the next match: Shane Thorn against Bronson Reed. I liked Shane Thorn was one of the I don't know what the recent name of their tag team was. They have changed it, but they came over and did a Ring of Honor match for us, and they didn't have papers or we would have used them. Him and his partner. I think he's the same guy. This Bronson Reed, he's fucking huge, but he looks like he can move pretty good. They did 10 million kicks and chops. You know, but Reed hit a deadly looking move of some description, got a 2 count, and then finally hit that splash off the top. And if that hadn't been the finish, I would have thrown something through the television, but that was the finish.
It looked great too. What an incredible splash.
Yes. And you could give that, instead of his name being Bronson Reed in a wrestling promotion, you could give that guy a fucking gimmick and maybe a manager and goddamn hospitalize some people. Carry him out on stretchers, you can get him over. I don't know what they're going to do with him because, you know, but anyway.
Everyone has a stupid name in NXT. That is the one problem. There is no Mauler.
And you can't even remember him either. And it's not like Terry Gordy and Michael Hayes. It's like contrived names, like that fucking 3-man team of that's in Imperium, and we can't remember what all their fucking names are or whatever. They're phony made up names that nobody actually has in real life, rather than either a name like Michael Hayes or a goddamn name like the Mauler. It just, or at least you can remember it. Anyway, the NXT Tag Team Championship, Dakota Kai and Tegan Nox against Kabuki Warriors. You give me your opinions first.
I really like the match. I'm a big Asuka fan, always have been. Everyone gets mad about my pronunciation of her name. I don't give a fuck. I like Kairi Sane also. I think they're really good together. I've not seen much of their work on the main roster because I don't watch that stuff, but I'd seen a little bit. I knew she was doing the Great Kabuki gimmick now. And I thought the other girls are really good as a babyface tag team. They worked holds. I don't know if I saw anyone grab a hold on AEW. They worked,
no, I don't think anybody knows how to get a headlock over there.
But they worked the leg. I thought, and forgive me, I don't remember which one of the baby faces is which, but the one that took the mist, she got a great shot of mist, but she sold it fantastically. And then it made sense. She turned over so the referee couldn't see her face.
Yeah.
And then she got hit with the elbow, which also looked great, and pinned. I really liked this. And of course, the post-match led up to a lot of stuff, but as a match, I liked it. It was what I wanted. It was a good tag team match.
Well, I tell you, I got to be honest. I watched a couple minutes. Nothing was wrong with it, but I watched both shows last night because today is my anniversary and I had things to do. And I was getting sleepy. So as I wrote, this went forever, even on speed search, because I skipped ahead to the finish. And I loved the elbow off the top. But then once I saw the horsewomen, then I was into it. And the confrontation and the beatdown. And here comes Rhea Ripley. But Io Shirai attacks her, and Bianca Belair and Candice LeRae for whatever she's worth, and the big fight, and Ripley laying everybody out, and attacking Shayna Baszler, and all the people hitting the ring for the pull apart. That was one of the better angles I have seen with all women.
Oh yeah.
And and then when Regal came out and made it the War Games at first, I was, oh goddamn. War Games with girls, right? Because I was thinking old War Games because there's got to be blood and, and violence. And then I thought, well, wait a minute, there ain't going to be blood anyway. Nobody does blood anymore. And actually with the horsewomen and that heel contingent, yeah. So I'm kind of interested in a female War Games, for heaven's sake. Who would have thought? But because it was a wrestling angle.
Yeah. And William Regal, fantastic delivering the line. I mean, it was like 2 lines.
Yes.
But War Games! And
yeah,
the crowd popped. The only thing I don't like, and it's an industry-wide thing, if this is all going on, Rhea Ripley should run to the ring. Shouldn't wait for her music to hit and then slowly walk out.
Yeah.
And it's not just her, it's everyone. I mean, instead of a run-in where you run in there and try to take care of some action, you have to have your music play, you have to make your entrance. It just, that drives me crazy.
And plus that kills, because when you hear the music, that kills your pop. When you hear the music, they pop on the music because they're like, oh, so-and-so is coming. But it was so much better and more organic when you see so-and-so running down the aisleway and the sudden, oh my God, here she comes, or whatever the fuck. Yeah. I actually cussed out the sound guy at a show in Oklahoma a couple of years ago, the Imperial Wrestling Revolution. IWR. They're running some in Oklahoma. Great guys. JR was there. He was helping them out with some talent. That's why I managed the Hardys. No, I'm sorry. Let me back. I managed War Machine, Hanson and Rowe against the Hardys. And I put, War Machine over at that time because they were a really good heel team. And boy, what big badasses. And I don't know what's happened to them now. I don't know where they are. That nobody keeps the same name, so I can't keep track of anybody. But anyway, the night before at a show, somebody was going to run in the Von Erich boys in their match, and I was out there managing. And the fucking sound guy played the run-in music, played the guy's music that was going to run in and make a save on an unplanned, supposedly fucking thing that was just happening. And I said, what the fuck is the matter with you? And it's so stupid. But I agree, everybody does it, and everybody's stupid that does it. But the next match I enjoyed so much because once again, Cameron Grimes, I love him to death because he's different. Tyler Bates, a good kid. But do you know what Cameron Grimes did that made me love him and love this match?
No.
He grabbed a guy, wrist lock on the guy, and when the referee walked around the other side, he pulled Tyler Bates' hair and took him down to the mat. He actually healed. I know who the heels and baby faces are. And they had a nice little match. They went through a break too. Good God, I wish everybody didn't have to go through a break. But that thing that Cameron Grimes does where he backflips on top of the guy, grabs a German and then Germans him, that little prick's stronger than you would give him credit for.
He's really good.
I like that. And like I said, they had a nice match. And finally, here comes Killian Dane, and he does the distraction, and Grimes hits that double foot stomp. I love that thing. I have never seen that before in wrestling. Nobody that I know of has ever done that in that way. And then Dane got heat on Tyler Bate after he fucking got beat. So that it's a wrestling show. Imagine this.
Well, you know what else I like? The fact that it was actually built up. Remember a few weeks ago, Tyler Bate was at ringside after Cameron Grimes' match, and they had that little thing. So when they showed it on the graphic on the screen that this match was coming up, I was like, all right, I understand why these two guys don't like each other. And I really enjoyed it. And again, you know, you put over the healing and that finish is fantastic. It's just spectacular. But beyond that, again, another guy that worked a hold in a match.
Yeah.
And I really liked it. Really, really. And I really, really am high on Tyler Bate. I know he's not a big guy, but there are a lot of guys in NXT, Finn Balor, Johnny Gargano, who aren't the biggest guys. So there are at least guys similar size that he can go against. And I just think he's really, really talented, especially at his age.
And so here's another thing. Everybody that can't get it, that just can't see what the fuck is going on or have the cognitive ability to understand the English language. It's not just size, it's appearance. Sometimes it is just size. No, a professional wrestler cannot weigh 115 pounds like Marco Stunt. But people will say, well, you booked this small guy and that small guy and the other small guy. Sayama was not a very big guy, but he convinced you. He was athletic. He was a world-class athlete. Dynamite Kid, before he got on the sauce and went to the WWF, might not have weighed 200 pounds, but look at him. And he was a badass. It's not just size. It's size and appearance, both physically and facially, and how you carry yourself. And some people there's also a bunch of 6'3", 260-pound fat dumpy fucks that you wouldn't think could whip anybody. And they shouldn't be wrestling either. And it amazes me when people are, well, it's just the size. And then they say, well, Cornette wants to take up he wants all these steroid freaks. They don't even know what the fuck I have said for the last 30 years. Cornette, look, he takes up for the WWF. He's sucking Vince's dick. I've never knocked them. Oh my God. But no, it's not just size. Anyway. And then finally, we're wrapping this thing up just in time. The best match of the night from either program, I think without question, Keith Lee and Matt Riddle against Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish. I liked this match. Everybody was different. Everybody did their shit. O'Reilly and Fish led it. They're the fucking heels. Riddle got to do his shit. Keith Lee does some good shit, and they got his in there, but they, because he's limited because he's green, so they kept it to the big stuff. Went through a break, but I wanted to see what was going on the other side. I obviously knew who the heels and baby faces were. They got a nice set of heat on Matt Riddle and told a story with it that made sense. And then guess what Matt Riddle did? Of all people, he made a hot tag.
And he did it well.
We did it well. We finally saw one. And guess what the people did?
They popped.
They cheered. And then Keith comes in and does his great power shit. O'Reilly and Fish have good teamwork, either on offense or defense. Here comes Adam Cole and Roderick Strong, and that spot where Keith Lee pounced one of them into the other one, that looked fucking great.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, while he's doing that, the two heels beat the one babyface with the fucking high-low, total elimination, whatever, double goozle, whatever the fuck they're calling it, 1, 2, 3. Great fucking match. And then here come the heels to get some heat, and Ciampa makes the fucking wild save. That's wrestling. Nothing to laugh at, nothing to scoff at. Everybody was serious. Everybody looked like they could kick ass. Work was good, made sense, looked like a sport, got the business in afterwards. Everybody wants to see what's going to happen next. That's wrestling. Sorry, folks. NXT is, as we predicted it would be, because we know who's running the shit, a more professional show where you're going to get no stupid indie bullshit that, if you saw it on Raw, you cosplay wrestling fans, if you saw it on Raw or SmackDown, can you imagine, Brian? Well, now they've got a librarian that goes, shh, Or now they got a guy sticks his hands in his pockets. It's as bad as the necrophilia. They're making a mockery of wrestling.
You're not allowed to do irony in the WWE, only in AEW. Ironic wrestling is not acceptable by wrestling fans in the WWE. But if AEW does it, it's fair game.
Let me just figure this out here. Hold on here a second. I'm skipping through. Just 1 second. Irony, IRO, ironing, iron age, ironclad.
Is that in the glossary
Iron Curtain
for that?
Ironic. No, this is the American Heritage Dictionary. Ironic, marked by or constituting irony, or given to the use of irony. Okay, well then iron lung. That's what Chief J. Strongbow would say that they should add those matches in. Should add that match in an iron lung. Nobody ever knew what that meant, but it sounded bad. Okay, irony, the use of words to convey the opposite of their literal meaning. Incongruity between what might be expected and what actually occurs. It didn't say anything about stupid, bad outlaw mud show wrestling. It does say something about feigned ignorance, but I don't know. Irony, I don't know. The point is, whether you call it irony or whether you just call it an outlaw mud show, it's still stupid. So, the show of the week goes to NXT. The match of the week goes to NXT. The segment of the week goes to AEW. Actually, it goes to Chris Jericho and Cody. And this experiment in its current form has come to an end. Next week, we will start giving you the highlights and the lowlights, but we're not going to spend this much time because I'm starting to hate my life. Do we have anything else to let the people know about?
Drive-Thru Monday. That's it.
Okay, well, listen to the Drive-Thru on Monday, and that is all the people need to know.
And call the law office of Stephen P. New if you need the sue.
Yes, 888-692-8084. Jazz hands. I love you, Stephen, and we love all of you in the cult of Cornette. And that's another thing. All these fucking cosplay wrestling fans want to say the cult of Cornette is toxic. The cult of Cornette are just grown adults that like their wrestling instead of a bunch of people sticking their thumbs in people's ass and then sucking on it like you little rascals fans. Although I was a big fan of Hunt's Hall in the Bowery Boys. But,
yeah, that's not the Little Rascals. That's the Bowery Boys.
Well, I was a big fan of Hunt's Hall and the Bowery Boys, I was going to say, but at the same time, that Leo Gorsey, I figure he was probably a guy that would do outlaw mud show stuff. Anyway, nevertheless, people are still looking up Phoebe Figalilly from the opening of the program. I knew you'd get that. That's why I
used to be a big Bowery Boys fan. Somewhere I have DVDs of like all their movies.
Well, at first they were the Dead End Kids.
That's right. And then they lost the rights to that.
But then that's because they were in the movie Dead End.
Yeah.
Which was a serious...
With James Cagney.
Serious motion picture on the horrors of bad neighborhoods and the environment that troubled children grew up in. And then the Dead End Kids made a couple of other appearances. But then, since they lost the rights to that because they switched studios, they became the East Side Kids because that's the side of town they were from in New York. But then, when they switched again, they became the Bowery Boys.
It's amazing, too. I mean, considering they started from Dead End and then became the Dead End Kid, it would be like if the Little Rascals debuted in a murder mystery.
Yeah.
And then the next short is just like happy-go-lucky, we're playing around. But anyway.
But, now you've given All Elite Wrestling some ideas. They're gonna
right?
Next week is gonna be a murder mystery, and then one of the guys is gonna come back the following week. He'll still be alive, and he's all right. Anyway, happy Halloween, everybody. We'll see you next week. For Brian, I'm Jim. If you didn't already know that, thank you. Fuck you. Bye bye, everybody.